Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Henrique Mendonça. I also have Marios here with me. We are lifecycle designers at eTool, and today we're going to cover the core building services as part of the BREEAM Mat01 credit, exemplary credit. So this is following a recent approval by BRE on the eTool default lifecycle inventory. So we can now model core building services as part of the BREEAM certification process. So just kick off and go through the agenda. We'll talk about whole life carbon and building services, so how much carbon the building services represent in the overall building impact. We'll look at in details about the exemplary credit for core building services, the options, appraisal, the requirements, and so on. We'll describe the workflow in eToolLCD, how you generate the result submission tool and all the reporting and modeling in a little bit more detail. And we'll present the inventory processes, so the materials and refrigerant gases, so the data that is available in eToolLCD to help you customize and model your core services on your projects. We'll also run an example project. It's going to be a basic one to begin with. We thought just to cover the basics on this webinar. And as we develop more and more examples and in-depth modeling, we'll run a more technical study. So this is just going to be an example in how you go through the whole process and create your result submission tool. So the idea is to assist the users that are already using the tool to achieve this exemplary credit. So that's the intent of the webinar. And also allow a wider scope to be captured. So you have more chances for carbon savings early on during concept stage. And also give an opportunity for everyone to comment and provide feedback and ask questions towards the end of the presentation. If you've got questions, feel free to send us a chat. We'll explain in more details throughout the presentation. If not, we'll have a more of a open discussion towards the end. So there's already a lot of good guidance on embodied impact of mechanical and electrical and plumbing systems. I have done a bit of research recently just to see what's out there, see how everything is lining up and how eTool is presenting the information as well. So I'm not going to go into too much details, but I'm just going to take a moment to share with you the LETI embodied carbon primer, very comprehensive guidance on different areas for whole life carbon. There's one section specifically about services. So as part of the rules of thumb, which makes it simple for you to target your reductions early on. So I really encourage you guys to have a look at it if you haven't seen yet. So there's a whole section here on building services and the recommendations, the relevance, and so on. It's quite a good document to read. The other one was a study put together by Barbara Rodriguez-Droget as part of the Carbon Leadership Forum from the University of Washington in the US. And it's quite a comprehensive study, this one as well, because it goes into details of existing data, looking at different systems, characterizing the impacts on a per meter square basis. So give us some benchmark figures here for different systems. And it also presents an overall impact for the building, taking into consideration the initial construction, the red bit here, the operational energy, which adds up throughout time. And we can see here the impact is around 3,500 kilograms of carbon per meter square. So very dominated by operational impacts. But the recurring impact, especially from HVAC systems here, the refrigerant can get very big throughout time. So this is the worst case scenario with no refrigerant management, just highlighting the importance of targeting and specifying and understanding the whole life of refrigerant gases early on. So very detailed study as well. There's a full dissertation study online, so I encourage you to have a read through, very informative as well. And with eToolLCD, we've got the library, the benchmark design, which we're going to go through. Mario is going to present in a little bit more details in a second on the relevance of building services. So we have this office benchmark model in the software that is available to all users, including open users. And in this example, we have modeled services. So when you look at the total impacts here, services accounts for around 3%. And that's mainly because there's a lot of operational impact here for this example project. And we also have modeled a lot more in terms of services than what's required for BREEAM. So we can touch on that as well. So the information is available in the software. The benchmark model already includes some examples of services equipment for you guys to dig in more details. So we always recommend doing the whole project analysis instead of breaking the scope into sections like usually the rating systems do. So with BREEAM, you're only assessing, it's a materials focused LCA, whereas we always encourage you to model everything, including operational energy, operational water, different services, so you can get a big picture of the impacts, and then you can drill down the details. And with that approach, you always have the option to export the relevant or the necessary information only for the BREEAM submission. So the reporting tool at eToolLCD will extract just the relevant information that's required for your BREEAM credit. So more specifically about the core building services, I'm sure you all know about this, the technical manual that is available online. You have to undertake superstructure options appraisal as a prerequisite, as well as the benchmark comparison. So just to trigger the credit, it's a mandatory requirement. And with the core building services, you have to model 3 different options, one of them being your baseline or your reference model. So here's the in-scope items for core building services, including heat source, space heating, air conditioning, ventilation, and fuel installations and systems. But when I was referring about the category, if you have the right templates at eTool with the right category names, the software will extract just this relevant information. So if you have, for example, security systems or vertical transport or any other systems model as well, it's not going to be reported. So it's just going to capture the right categorization here for your core services templates. So the workflow in eToolLCD, it's a little bit different now for those that are used to the impact database only. So with the impact database, before this approval from BRE, you did all the optioneering, the comparison against the benchmark, the LCC, everything was done using the BREEAM Impact. But now we have the default lifecycle inventory dataset approved by BREEAM, so you can run everything first in your default LCI. It covers a wider scope. You have a wider choice of processes, so more materials to choose from. So you can you get your project information. You start with a Revit model or a CSV file, and then you do the first matching to build your design using the default LCI. Then you create your baseline and start doing your optioneering, superstructure, substructure, and hard landscaping as you used to. Then you also model the exemplary credits, the core building services that we're covering today. And also you do your LCC alignment and submit for the verification to get the third-party exemplary credit. So that's all done in one model. But you have to create a different model for the benchmark comparison, because the pre-impact benchmark was modeled using the impact database, obviously, and then you have to have the same data set for comparison. So you have to create a new design on a new project using a different data set. That's for your benchmark comparison. In this case, when you're doing just for the compliance with the credit and potentially achieving your benchmark credits, depending on your project performance, you're just modeling the superstructure. So it's a lot more simple model, this second one that you have to do. So unfortunately, you have to split because of the different data sets, but once you have all the project information lined up, you can just import via CSV or the Revit plugin and create your model for benchmark comparison as well. Then we go into a bit more details on the lifecycle inventory processes available in eToolLCD. So I'll show you in the software. The processes are broken into elements, what we call the element names, which are electronics, electrical equipment, and standard materials like PVC or copper, galvanized steel, and so on. So those are specific materials then that we use to create like motors and control units and encasing. So it's like the first level of a map system, a map component. And then out of these map components, for example, motor, control unit, and encasing, we then create the templates. So these templates, then it's a combination of these elements put together. So we have, we're then able to create large systems like cooling towers or chillers, electric pumps and air handling units. And the way we do it in the software is by looking at the specification of that element and assigning the specification for the material and the mass of the material. We often include some people and equipment impact to account for maintenance. And it's also useful for lifecycle costing alignment. So in this case, for this heat recovery ventilation unit, for example, we have different elements here for the encasing, which is steel, zinc coated, electrical goods for the motor, So this is obviously proxy and approximation for those impacts, right? We try to be as close as possible to reality, but these are not from, these are coming from material and systems data specification. So they're not EPDs, the generic information that we put together in elements to create these components: control unit, fan rotators, heat recovery membrane here. So this way we get close to that component, you know, for this heat recovery ventilation unit. And then we also assign the product life to account for the recurring impacts and so on. So this is how we model the specific templates. Then you can combine templates using the nested template functionality to create a whole system for a building. So this one is a complete chiller system, including cooling tower, including the chiller itself. And you can see here the big impacts coming from the chiller, mainly because of the refrigerant gas. And you can also add the electric heat pump and air handling unit. So now we're combining templates to create a whole system template for a HVAC chiller. Then you can go into specific templates and look at the details as well. So when you go into the chiller, just one thing I forgot to mention here, you can always check the details of the template to see the assumptions. We'll try to log as much as information as possible as part of the template description. Same for the HVAC chiller. You look at the details, you see the references where we got the information from. This one, for example, it was estimated from an EPD. We got the material quantity from an EPD for chiller, the train product. We got the material weight, the mass for different types of materials. We've got information on refrigerant gases and leak rate and stuff. And so we have everything documented on a template by template basis. And then when you go into the template itself, again, you're going to have the people and equipment impacts, as well as the equipment details. So you have the encasing again, the pump, the motors, the refrigerant gas. We have split here the refrigerant gas in the leak rate and also the first charge every 20 years life expectancy. So this way you're combining different elements to create your templates, and these templates are representing the whole systems. Okay, so you have different templates here for example, air handling units, different one. For all these templates, they're available in the library. When you go into the library and you search for a specific category here, you can just filter. So this is, for example, it's a very long list of services, because as I said, we have different types of services here. We have sewage systems, electrical, transformers, even wind turbines and solar PV, renewable generation systems, and then plumbing. And then, so there's a whole list of templates here that you can choose from. But you can also create a new template and customize a template to suit your specification, and then you submit that for validation. So your model is using a validated template. Another example here is ducting as well, the PVC as well as the flexible aluminum, and you can go into details of the material quantity and the specification, as I said before. So that's covering the basics of how the software is, the model is put together to do your core building services. Have you got anything else to add, Marios, before you start with the example project?
No, I don't think so. I think you have covered it well. I mean, how we have created the existing templates. The users can create their own templates in a similar fashion, and yeah. So I guess we can crack on with the demonstration.
Okay, so I'm just going to make you a presenter.
Mm-hmm.
You can share your screen.
Okay, you should be able to see my screen now, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, for the purpose of this webinar, I have created this this design here. I will very quickly show you around for those who are not familiar with the software. This is how the project a project in eTool looks like, where you have the different structures or buildings and then the different designs within each structure. You have several tabs down here where you can select the models you want to assess, the indicators, and some other site information and financial information for LCC. Then we've got our building, which in this case is just called example structure, with several designs in it. You can define the construction, energy, and water scope in those tabs here. You can add collaborators, and we can go to this design option here, which I call it a baseline option 1, which is actually the international office benchmark that Henrique just mentioned before. So this basically forms the option 1, the baseline option. I'll just very quickly go through the services equipment just to show you what is already in there. You will see a lot of different items that are out of the scope for the BREEAM assessment. But as Henrique mentioned, we encourage our users to model using a full scope, literally model the whole building, even if some items are out of the BREEAM scope. It's better to have a whole picture and just use the results for the BREEAM submission. So you'll see some WC sinks, fire service equipment, plumbing, yeah, cooling tower, an HVAC commercial chiller, and so on. I'm not going to mention all of these, some ductworks as well. So what you can do to basically create your next option is clone it and rename it BREEAM Webinar Services Option 2, for example. In the existing structure. Which should be here, this one, and that should be the LCA, just an LCA scenario, and clone. And here we are. So in this option, you have, in general, you have the option to use the recommendations tab and record all the changes so that you keep track of all the changes. But for the purpose of this webinar, because I'm gonna do some just a single change, just to show you what you can do in the software, I'm not gonna use it. But we do have video tutorials on our site and in our YouTube channel if you want to have a look on how the recommendations tab is, how it works. So what I'm gonna do for option 2 is I could probably go and find what is the main contributor, which I already know it's a refrigerant. I'm not gonna lie. So I was thinking to change the refrigerant for option 2, and in this case you can just click here and change it to I'm going to choose the best one in terms of global warming, which is CO2, this one. Just going to change the description as well, and save. And you will see that this has dropped significantly if when I find it. It should be further down. Here we are. Yeah, it used to be around 1,200,000. Now it's 1,500,000, which is which is a significant difference. So we've got our option 2. What we can do then is we need to clone it and create our option 3. So I'm just going to use that and say this is option 3. Sorry, just to be consistent in the naming. Service option 3. I'm going to say that is an LCA scenario. And that's ready. So what we can do is we can have a look at the templates. Now, because this is a benchmark model, we've got pretty much all the different elements nested in some main templates, but for the purpose of this webinar, I have deliberately left the ductwork as a template. Otherwise, it would be just a nested template in these embodied impacts. So in this case, what I can do is basically just, just to do something very quickly, I will simply say that option 3 will represent a different ductwork arrangement, which is either more efficient or less efficient. In this case, I'll just say it's 700 linear meters. You could use, obviously, in a real life project, if you want to do it accurate, you would have plenty of different duct sizes or different duct types and so on. So you were going to play with those ones as well. But yeah, for this webinar, I'll just change the number of this template to 700. And that could be our option 3. Now, the next step is to actually download the reports and link them to the Mat01 tool. Let's wait a few more seconds. Yeah, it shouldn't take that much, to be honest. But yeah, here it is. It really should be faster than that. Okay, so we're ready. So the next thing we do is go to option, we can go to option 3, which is the current one, and go to the reports tab and create a new report, which is BREEAM 2018, and download the results with a name, with this name, which will represent the option 3 for the Mat01 submission tool. So I'm gonna just download that one. It will take a few seconds to actually download it. And I think, okay, here we are. So I'm gonna simply copy that and paste it in the Mat01 submission folder, which is this one, and simply replace the file, the existing file. I'm gonna do the same for option 1 and 2. I think I've already downloaded them in a separate folder. Or I can just very quickly do the same for the other options. So I've got option 1 and go to reports, new report, BREEAM 2018. That is going to be our option 1. Here we are. I'm going to copy that in our folder as well and replace the existing empty file. And I will do the same for option 1, which is this one. I'm going to go to reports, new report. And there it is. I'm going to paste it directly into the folder and replace the file. And then we're opening the result submission tool. We update all the links. I have pre-filled some of those cells already, which have to do with the functional unit for the building, which is basically 10,000 square meters in this case. We specify the building type, which credits we are pursuing. We're doing superstructure, which is a prerequisite, and then I have only left the building services, and we're using eTool default UK. So the other option would be to use the impact, but you would not be able to do the building services credit with that database. So I'm going directly to the core services, and there seems to be an issue here, which is strange. Let me see. Option 2 and 3, for some reason, I think I might have copied the wrong results. So let me see what's going on. Okay, so option 1, option 2. Yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what is going on here. I think I messed up a little bit with the folders. I've got a couple of folders already open, but I will try to fix it as soon as possible.
Just gonna jump in for a second, Marius, while you get that exported to the folder, because it's to do with the the units and the templates and some of the questions that are coming through. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
cool. So I think the first question from Andrew was about the template quantity. And as you familiarized with the template system, you have the option to choose the unit. So if you're doing a chiller, you can do the chiller on a kilowatt capacity. If you're doing a template for ducting, then you can do one on linear meter basis. So you can choose the unit to best suit. That was one of the questions.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's basically the greatest thing about the templates, because you don't really have to go with the standard units like meter or square meter or cubic meter or kilowatt and so on. You can basically create your own template and use any functional unit you want, as far as this makes sense to you, really, and it's useful to your specific case.
Yeah, cool. Looks like you got the
Yes, yeah.
results.
So apologies for that. I had prepared a couple of folders before the webinar, and instead of making it easier, I made it worse, actually. But yeah,
Good.
anyway, so all the results are now linked with the Mat01 tool, and then all we have to do is specify if this option is the chosen one, and if not, what is the reason. So this one was the one with it was a baseline design, so I'm gonna just say that it prevents other sustainability factors to be achieved. It's strange because it doesn't have a reason. It should have a reason that the embodied carbon is too high, but it doesn't seem to have it here, which is strange. But so I usually just use this option here for such cases. I would go with choosing that one, and I would just say that probably there is an aesthetic preference for another option, probably. And then it will just ask you if you fill in some other details which have to do with this tab over here, which is basically a description of what you really changed from the baseline design. So in this case, for this option, which is our option 2, we would go to probably space heating and air conditioning and say we change the refrigerant, and then for this option we change the ductwork arrangement, so have more ducts of this size and more ducts of that size. So when you have done that, it will show you that you can now get one exemplary credit, and it will show you the total amount of credits here. Obviously, it's not 100% of the credits, because we said we're not doing substructure and hard landscaping in this case. So we're just getting the 4 superstructure and the 1 for the core services. And yeah, I think that should conclude the live demo.
Thanks, Marius. That's good. Thank you. There's a few questions coming through. I encourage all the other participants to send your questions as well. There is another question from Andrew regarding the quantity. How do we get the data? And it's a really good question because it's not easy. And Emily also asked a question in the same realm in regards to EPDs. So we did research a bit. There's not that many EPDs available for electrical, mechanical, and plumbing systems.